Hi everyone, it's Karen Costa. I am wearing sweatpants. I'm completely exhausted. My son had a half day for school today that was already planned, and he's floating around in the background somewhere out there with the dog who seems to be barking at everything. So this is going to be an imperfect video, but I wanted to push through with it anyway to show folks that we don't have to let perfect be the enemy of good when we're creating videos. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the impact of stress on learning. And what I want to emphasize here is that this is not something that should only be discussed coming from psychologists and doctors and social workers. This is something that we can all talk about, right? We all experience stress. It's important that we all educate ourselves about its impact on our bodies and our minds, and particularly in the academic context. So stress does have very predictable effects on learning. And within this current crisis, we're talking a lot about moving land-based courses to online formats, whatever you want to call that, right? Within that discussion, I think we need to talk about managing expectations and recognizing what this extreme situation is doing to our bodies and our minds. So I have some book recommendations for you, and we're going to talk a little bit about stress in this video. So the first one is Brain Rules by John Medina. I talk about this all the time. Okay, so what does John Medina say about stress? So one of his brain rules is stressed brains don't learn the same way. Okay, so the relationship between stress and learning and memory and things like that is a little bit complex, but we can start there. Stressed brains do not learn the same way. Okay, so a couple things I want to share with you. This is from chapter 8, page 178. So Medina says, research shows that memories of stressful experiences are formed almost instantaneously in the human brain, and they can be recalled very quickly during times of crises. If the stress is too severe or too prolonged, however, then, right, stress begins to harm learning, right? So when you switch from that mild to moderate stress to more extreme types of stress, the impact of stress on learning shifts. So if the stress is too severe or too prolonged, stress begins to harm learning. Stressed people don't do math very well. They don't process language very efficiently. They have poorer memories, both short and long forms. They can't concentrate. In almost every way it can be tested, chronic stress hurts our ability to learn. One study showed that adults with high stress levels performed 50% worse on certain cognitive tests than adults with low stress. Specifically, stress hurts declarative memory, things you can declare, and executive function, the type of thinking that involves problem solving. Those, of course, are the skills needed to excel in school and business. So in the past 10 days or so, I have certainly noticed the impact of stress in my life. I've noticed I'm making typos. It's really difficult. I'm a huge reader. I pick up a book and it's like I read a sentence and then my mind goes somewhere else, right? Having a tough time sleeping. My concentration is all over the place. Like many of you, I'm experiencing the impact of stress. So I want us to keep this in mind, that this type of severe and chronic stress harms learning. So as we're thinking about getting our course content from a land-based format to an online format, we also need to recognize that students' brains and our own brains are not going to be as efficient right now. That is just the science behind stress, okay? So it's really important that we make accommodations for that for ourselves and for our students. So a second book I can recommend to you, if you like dense reading, Robert Sapolsky's Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. I am definitely not, I am not a zebra. I have learned that, right? So he talks about the inverse U relationship with stress. As you go from no stress to a moderate transient amount of stress, the realm of what he calls stimulation, memory improves. So mild to moderate stress actually has, been shown to improve memory. However, as you then transition into severe stress, memory declines. So we are I think it's safe to say in a situation that is both severe and chronic, right? So nothing I can recall in my lifetime is similar to this. 9/11 comes to mind. I was living in New York City at the time, so certainly severe. And for many people, it was chronic. So for many people who lived through that situation, there are going to be similarities. For many of us that had that privilege, we were able to return to some semblance of a normal life, though it still certainly had major cultural impacts. We have no idea when this is going to end, so huge amounts of severe and chronic stress, right? So the last book I want to recommend, hopefully this is kind of positive. I think of this as a positive. So Hans Selye's book, The Stress of Life, he's one of the original stress researchers. And he says in the preface, no one can live without experiencing some degree of stress all the time. I'm going to read that again because I really think it's important. No one can live without experiencing some degree of stress all the time. So if you are alive, you're going to experience stress. It's part of life, okay? It's a condition of life. I sometimes say it's the price of admission to the dance, right? So if you're feeling stressed, know that that's part of life, right? It's a condition of life. Know that you aren't alone in that. I am reminding myself that some of these things that I'm experiencing are very normal, predictable reactions to an extreme situation, right? So I just want to, remind all of us that this is going to be coming into our experiences in our work and in our classrooms, whether they're land-based or online. It's going to be in our homes and our communities. So just, I think, really important to be patient with ourselves and each other. If I can leave you with one thought, be patient with yourselves and each other and recognize that chronic severe stress does harm learning. So know that going in, plan for it, and modify expectations as needed. And of course, seek out support. Even though we are, the social distancing, I saw somebody online say we should really be saying physical distancing, right? So it's really important to connect with our communities, whether it's over text or Zoom or Twitter or Facebook or an old-fashioned phone call, or maybe we'll all start writing letters again, I don't know. But it's really important to connect with the community. Okay? Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.